All right, this is Mr. Mason, and what we're going to do in this video is we're going to review problems that are dealing with percent markup, markdown, and sales tax. So this problem wants us to select all of the expressions that can be used to find the price of a $500 TV after a 25% markup. All right, now, whenever dealing with markup problems, when they give you the percent, we have to understand that this would only represent the amount of the markup. But after knowing what that amount is, we would have to add it to the original amount. So in essence, to find the new price, we're really looking for 125% of the $500. And that's because the 100% represents the original amount. And the 25% represents the amount of only the markup. So we have to add those together to get the new price. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to convert this into a decimal. To do that, we just move the decimal point 2 places to the left because really a percent means to divide by 100. So 125 divided by 100 is 1.25. And now what we're going to do is multiply that by 500. We're going to drop these 2 zeros. And 5 times 5 is 25. This is 12, and we have 6. So that would be $625. Now what we can do is just solve each one of these and see which of them would result in a total of 625. All right, now we can see that this choice would not result in that because we're multiplying 500 by something less than 1 whole, which means our answer is going to be less than 500. As a matter of fact, this just represents the amount of the markup, not the amount of the markup plus the original. So this would not work right here. Now this choice wouldn't work either because multiplying this by 2.5 is like multiplying this by 250%, which doesn't make any sense in the context of this problem. Now, a lot of students might select this because they see a 25% and just think like 2.5 is related to that somehow. Well, they maybe just figured they moved the decimal over 1 space to the left and they should have done it 2 times. But even if they did that, this would only represent the amount of the markup. All right, now this choice right here should be selected because multiplying 500 by just this one here gives you the original $500, and then multiplying it by this 0.25 would give you the amount of the markup. So 1.25 includes the original price and the markup all in one. All right, now this choice right here is basically the same thing as this choice right here. Now the reason for that is because this $500 is the original amount, and then right here we're multiplying the original amount by only 25%, which would give us the amount of the markup. So really this expression right here is showing the original plus the amount of the markup. So this would give us the right answer here as well. And over here, we would not select this because this piece right here would give us the new price altogether. This really is the same thing as this choice right here. So we would need to add this extra $500 right here. So we should not select that choice. All right, let's go on to our next problem. All right, for this problem, we have to figure out what is a percent markdown of a refrigerator that was originally this amount of money and now is on sale for this amount of money. All right, when calculating a percent markdown, what we do is we take the 2 amounts and we start by subtracting those 2 amounts. So we're going to take $1,880.40 and subtract it from $2,350.50. So we're going to drop the decimal. This is 10 cents right here. 0. Let's see, this is 7, and then this would give us 4. So that would be $470.10. This is the overall amount of the discount or the amount of the markdown. But we don't want the amount, although we need it to calculate the percent markdown. Now, once you have subtracted these 2 values together, what we do is we take that and we divide it by the original amount, which is $2,350.50. All right, so let us take our numerator, $470.10, I'm going to get rid of that 0. We really don't need it for our calculation. And divide it by $2,350.50. And we're going to drop that 0 as well, as it's not needed for our calculations. Now we're going to move this decimal one space to the right. And we have to do the same thing right here. And then we move it up. All right, now this number is now 23,505, which cannot be divided into 4,701. So we put a 0 right here. Now we just put a 0 after this decimal, and we pretend this is 47,010. Now, 23,505 fits into here exactly twice. Because if we double this, this is exactly 47010, leaving us with nothing remaining. All right, now we just take this decimal amount and convert it to a percentage by moving the decimal point 2 spaces to the right. So we would say that the refrigerator was marked down 20%. All right, let us go to the next problem. All right, so we have this store or this boutique that purchases 60 scarves. And the price that the boutique pays to stock their store with these 60 scarves is $450. And then they turn around and sell each one for $19.50. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this $450 and divide it by the 60 scarves to see how much the store purchased each scarf for, and then compare it to how much they sold them for. All right, so we can divide 60 into here 7 times, which is 420. That leaves us with 30. Now I can see that 30 out of 60 is a half, and 1/2 is equal to 50 cents or 0.5. But let's just continue our division here. Add a 0 and bring it down, and 60 goes into 300 5 times. And let's add a 0 here because we're dealing with money. So the boutique purchases each scarf for $7.50. Now let's compare that to this $19.50 each. So we have to find the percent markup. The first thing that we're going to do is subtract these amounts to figure out how much each scarf was marked up. So we're going to take $19.50 and subtract $7.50, and that gives us $12. Now, once you have figured out the amount of the markup, that becomes our numerator as part of the original, which is our total. And the price before the markup was $7.50. So what we have to do now is take this 12 and we have to divide that by 7.5. All right, so we have to move that decimal one space to the right, and we have to add a 0 here so we can move that decimal one space to the right and then move it up. And of course, 75 would go into 120 once. We're going to subtract 75 from 120, which would give us 45. And then we add a 0 and we bring that down. And 75 can go into 450 6 times. 6 times 75 is exactly 450, leaving us with nothing remaining. All right, now we convert this into a percentage by moving the decimal point 2 spaces to the right. So we would say that each scarf was marked up 160%. All right, let's go ahead and do the next problem. All right, so Samantha buys coffee mugs for $8 each and marks up the price by 35%. So we have to figure out how much profit that she makes from each coffee mug sold. All right, so we're going to take this 35% and express it as a decimal and then multiply that by 8. And 8 times 35 is 280. We put our decimal right here. So that would be $2.80. So basically, the new price of the coffee mug would be 8 plus the 280. So she would sell each mug for $10.80. However, they didn't ask what the price is going to be after the markup. They just want to know how much profit she's going to make. And that amount of profit is the amount of the markup in this case. So this is actually our final answer. However, I wanted to write this out so we can distinguish something very important here. And what that is that Samantha purchased each one of these mugs for $8, which means she lost $8. So in the new price that she sells it for, this $8 that's included in the total price is just her recouping the $8 she spent for that mug. So those two numbers pretty much cancel out there, leaving her with the $2.80, which is how much she profits off of each mug. All right, Let's go to our next and final problem. All right, so we have a dining chair on sale for 15% off of the original price of $85. If there is an 8% sales tax, what is the final price of the dining chair? All right, so let's think about the problem like this. If you get a 15% discount on something, you're left with 85% of the cost. Now, they're asking what we're paying for the chair, not how much is the discount. Now, what a lot of students do is they like to calculate the amount of the discount, and once they know that, they would subtract it from the 85. However, what I like to do is consider the original price as 100%, and then when you take that 15% off of the 100, you're left with 85%, in this case, of the price to pay. So what I'm going to do is figure out what 85% of the $85 is first. So we're going to take 85 and multiply that by 0.85. This would be 25. This would be 42. Put a 0 here. This would be 40. This would be 64 plus 4 is 68. So that would give us $72.25. So we know that we're responsible to pay $72.25 after the discount. However, we still have to pay 8% taxes on this. Now, we could just multiply this by 8% as a decimal, but that would only give us the amount of taxes that would have to be added back to this price. Or what we could do is multiply this by 108%, because multiplying this by one whole would give us this amount that we are responsible to pay, plus that 8% extra in taxes. All right, so let us go ahead and multiply this 8 first. This is 40. This is going to be 16 plus 4 is 20. This is 16 plus 2 is 18. And 56 plus 1 is 57. All right, we can skip this place value here. But because we're finished with 2 of them, we have to lead with 2 zeros at the end here. And then 1 times 7225 is 7225. So we add our columns up. This is 13, 10, 8, and 7. 4 numbers after the decimal, so we place it here. And that would give us $78.03 for the final price of the dining chair. All right, we have reached the end of this tutorial. I hope it was helpful, and I hope you learned something that you can apply to any of your work in your classes. Until next time, this is Mr. Mason Ed with Mason Ed Math.